T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
TK Trinidad, let's talk about it, let's talk about it, hey. TK Trinidad, let's talk about it, let's talk about it.
What's up, y'all? We are doing this live, the first Convos with TK live, and who better than to be on the first, it's not like the first Convos with TK, but the first live Convos with TK, then the man, the myth, legend. He's an author. He's a comedian. He has multiple shows. You could see him on The Ringer. He has 7 books. He's a published author. He is so many things. Like I said, I praise that he has enough time to grace us with his presence on a Friday afternoon.
Don't do this, TK. Because you every time you bump me for your show. Let's talk about that.
Boyce,
yes,
Flobo.com.
That's me.
What's up? How are you doing?
I'm good, living life, trying to be on that TK Convos show. Finally qualified to be on your show. I feel honored to be among such people as a big boy. Honored to be such people as a Fox News course. You know what I'm saying? I'm in good company. Thank you.
Anywho, like I said, you have a lot of things going on, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. There's 2 main things that I really want to talk about. First off, wedding DJing, and why I want to talk about that is because and they've done a lot of stories about this. And what I like with Convos with TK is that it's just kind of educating people. We're kind of one of those things where we're in a gig economy. Like my mom worked for the government for like 30 plus years. I know a lot of people who've done that. But now it just seems like it's very few people who are with the company for a number of years and then like they retire there. Everything's getting more expensive in Los Angeles. I think the gas is going to hit $5. I don't know, something. I don't even look anymore. Something ridiculous. But it's just kind of like you have to hustle. And with that being said, when you hear wedding DJ, you're hearing, okay, like, you go to weddings, but it's a hustle. And it seems like, and let me know if I'm wrong, that you make a good living doing that. So 1, how did you get into it? And then 2, is there money? Is there that type of money in there that, you kind of good?
Yeah, you can make good money in weddings, pandemic aside, right? Because the idea is that everyone gets married theoretically less than 6 times. So when they get married, they try to go as big as they can. So to your point, my parents were immigrants. They came up to this country in the 70s, and they really stressed having a good job. I talk about this a lot on my podcast, New Amsterdam Radio. We just say, get a good job, get a good job, get a good job. But I was always someone that wanted to do something else. I got into hustling by accident. I had a day job, a company that paid me a lot of money, and then they decided they were done with me. And I think the switch for a lot of us was there's no loyalty. They're not paying you enough, or they're forced to go back to work when there was a pandemic outside. I think workers understood, hey, look, these companies won't care for us. Why should we care for them? And I got into something that was my side gig that became my full gig. It's a cool idea to be a DJ in the wedding space. It's a little different than club DJing. I'm not sure how deep you want to go in that, but for what it is, man, I like doing it. Don't love it, but I like it.
Well, that's the thing, like the difference, because, you have and I'm sure people do this all the time, because people always, when I tell people that I do podcasts and there's some money involved, like, hey, I
Yeah.
want to do a podcast too, and it's just like, it's a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
And I get your enthusiasm, but don't make it sound like, oh well, if you could do it, I could do it too. So with that being said, what is the difference between, like, because I know people who, like, I at one time wanted to be a DJ, but in theory, you have to put in the work. There's just so many other things to do. And then on top of that, it seems like there's a very big difference between weddings
Yeah.
and club DJing, and
Sure.
it doesn't seem like you can mix too much of it. So what is the difference?
I think you can, but it's like you end up having a strong one or the other. Like I feel like Usher is a singer that can dance, whereas Genuine was a dancer who can sing, kind of a thing.
Mm,
So you can do both, be kind of a thing. And the reason being is that on the club circuit, it's skill in who you know. If you can hang out late, shake hands, people know you're around. Oh, I'll get that. When it comes to weddings or mobile DJing, basically any DJ that brings the entire setup to an event and break down and leave. This is a lot of reason why a lot of minority DJs can't make that transition to weddings, is because it's really based on venues. Venues hold most powers. When most people get married, they pick their venue first, and venues
mm.
have called the vendor list a lot of times. Hey, look, these are people we prefer, and so that kind of becomes like the name of the game is how do you get on those vendor lists.
Okay.
Only get on vendor lists. People know you worked before, and that comes to how much money you can invest in advertising. So a lot of us, and by us I mean minorities, women, new Americans, immigrants, we only can put so much money when we start because typically we earn less for a bunch of reasons. And
Mm-hmm.
deciding into our own business, we have a lot less runway. And so we may have a wedding here or there, but those who are truly successful as solo operators are ones that get on these giant lists around town in any certain market. It's that way in big cities, not so much rural, but in LA, I mean, this is where people have their destination weddings in America. SoCal,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost hard, almost impossible for new DJs, new minority DJs to break those lists.
So then how, because like I said, if you guys saw when I introduced Flobito in the show, how does one, like, follow the path of Flobito.com? Like, how do you get into those lists? Because another thing too is that I said this the other day, sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes people hire what they're used to seeing or people
Yeah.
who look like them.
Yeah.
So if these venues are, predominantly whatever, and they're,
Mhm.
you are the odd man out, like, how do you break into that?
Yeah, first of all, you got to have the talent, right? And you got to be a good person. I know the days of being a jerk who's a genius are pretty much done.
Mhm.
And it sounds
Mr.
kind
Kanye.
of yeah, exactly. It sounds manipulative, but I don't mean it this way. But if you're a nice person, you have talent, there's going to be some person who doesn't look like you who's willing to vouch for you, and that's
Right.
the only way you can cross over, unless you will be pigeonholed beyond belief.
Mhm.
It's another difference between DJs for weddings and DJs for clubs is that for clubs you can pick 2 or 3 genres and become an expert. And someone goes, well, I don't really know all the tunes right now, but I do know soca like the back of his hand. I'm calling
Right.
him. For weddings, it's you got to know a little bit about every genre possible, because if you're in the middle of
Mhm.
a pop song mix and someone goes, hey, can you play the 80s or something? You have to find a way to like transition.
Segue.
So
Mhm.
yeah, segue transition. So you do that and you have that knowledge, that base knowledge, and you have people who don't look like you to vouch for you. Most of my clients are referrals. It's people saying, hey, look, people that look like me I can't do this wedding. My friend Flobo can, because he shows up early, he has his
Right.
insurance, he makes sure he's nice, give him a chance. And that ends up being
Mhm.
the bridge, more than me putting my face on some Facebook ad and hopefully someone clicks my link.
Right. So then, I don't want to get all the way in your pocketbook, but what type of money are we talking about? Like, what
Yeah.
if somebody wanted to, and again, no, from whatever job, gig job or whatever, or influence or whatever, all that takes work. For my folks
Sure.
on TikTok, my hat's to you, because wow.
Sure.
So, putting in the work aside, like,
Mhm.
what's the money like?
The money depends on a lot of things. You can have sticker prices until you're blue in the face, but it really is a buyer's market. There's people
Mhm.
that will try to exploit you and try to make it as cheap as possible. The average DJ in Southern California, per the Knot and Wedding Wire, because they merged a couple of years ago, they say the average DJ pulls between 24 and 2,900 a wedding. And so when someone goes, well, that's a lot of money. Why would I put that much money into a wedding? The idea is that you need someone who's set up, breakdown, ceremony, reception, your planning sessions,
Mhm.
being able to be at a beck and call to understand what your playlist is going to be. I don't quite typically see that myself, but a lot of my colleagues usually are close to an average range or can charge more with packages and add-ons. When I'm DJing, I'm not just DJing. I'm selling the MC service. Some DJs have lights, some have projectors, some have vinyl mixes, some have live mixes during ceremony. There's many ways to make that number seem a lot more attainable, a lot more sense depending on your setup. So I have DJs who've made
Wow.
basically a couple $100 a year to ones making six figures a year based on their client packages and what's popular for them.
Wow. Okay, then I'm glad I didn't pursue that because that sounds like a lot of work.
Mhm.
With that being said, so what's the game plan? Like, is there an exit strategy, or is there? Because I remember when I was in driving school, the driver ed instructor said he was a wedding DJ, and this is in
Yeah.
Canada, so I don't know, what there's like a lot of difference between the two, but he was also old as dirt. So is there is there like a expiration date, or is there a game plan in Flobito's life as far as
Uh-huh.
what you want to do with this?
Yeah, I mean, for the old guy, as long as if the old guy becomes his own niche, like if you have like a certain ethnic niche, you can work for a lot longer. If you're just
Hmm.
going general open format, by the time you hit like in your mid 40s into 50s, you got to start asking yourself, are you even physically capable of picking up those speakers week in and week out? Because everyone can do it one time, be good, but after wedding
Right.
50, after wedding 60 a season, you feel it.
Hmm.
Like you got to hydrate like you're going to be drinking that night. But that said, I've seen like Nigerian DJs or West Indian DJs go older because if you're in a town where there aren't many, you can be that guy till you stop. For
Right.
me, I have I think this would be 7 years in total in the game. 4
Damn.
years
Okay.
under my own banner. So I'm kind of a veteran there. I'm looking for the next chapter, trying to see what I want to do with my life. And people who see my website, I don't hide the fact I do many things at once because I'm willing to keep myself open for a change. I think a lot of
Right.
the time people make the mistake of saying, I'm hustling here, now I'm doing this. And I always say, you get that second hustle going and then you transition or find something that makes sense for you because you don't know if you like that next step. But I don't see
Hmm.
myself doing it. I'm in my mid 30s now. I don't see myself doing it past 40. But I'm going to have a time of my life while I'm here. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. With that being said, you did make mention to you do a lot of stuff, and
Mhm.
we often talk for Phobia and I have known each other for what,
3 years?
4 years, 3
3?
years? I don't know. It seems like a long time,
I
not in a
graduated
bad
from
way.
AfterBuzz in 2018, November 18.
Oh, okay.
So not quite
I don't
4
even.
years.
I mean, that's a whole nother. Who knows? So with that being said, we both juggle a lot of stuff, but how do you, one, maintain your sanity, and then two, like, able to juggle all the things that you do, all 10 million shows and the wedding DJing and, writing and, so many other things.
First of all, I make sure to follow my homies and try to support them when I can. Got up today, put some of that center in, body scrub all over my face and my body, because that does inspire me to create, right? Because a lot of times you say, how do you find the time? Is like my friends are doing whatever. I can't do shit to scrub and save my life, but TK can. What's she doing? That for real. I say it to be funny, but it's actually true. I usually make sure to support my friends monthly or bi-weekly when I can. And then it comes down to spinning plates. Some days I realize I want to have more esports days. Some days I want to set aside to write. Some days I want to work on my health and do a 2 a day. It doesn't have to be everything at once all the time. But over time, taking a step back out for the week and for the month, I go, hey, look, if I was Flobo Corp, and if I was at a board meeting, what is
Uh-huh.
DJ Division doing? Well, revenues aren't good, but we have new mixes, new equipment. Great. What's podcasting division going? We got new markets. My Netflix show is now being downloaded in Qatar. Great. And you use that to keep moving forward. So make sure you hold yourself accountable, but also support your friends, support your homies.
So when you do that, do you like write it down, or I'm just trying to get into because I get asked this question a lot, and I always give
Mhm.
like a generic answer, and I realize that that's not really doing people who truly want to know a service, because they
Okay.
think, oh well, because a lot of people often just think, oh well, she can do it all, and she doesn't, she doesn't take breaks, she doesn't do that. And I realized that, for people who really want to know, it's like, there's a system in place on
Yeah,
how I try to make sure that, those plates keep spinning. So what's
absolutely.
your system?
So I guess to begin with, I don't think of myself per day. I know there's some CEOs like, when I get up, I do yoga and then I work out. I realize my life is too fluid for that. And if I do
Hmm.
that and if I fail, then I start like hurting myself for saying I can't believe you missed it. So I took a
Hmm.
more of a weekly look and I say, what are my hustles? So for me, it's the podcasting, the DJing, esports is a big thing I'm doing now, and the writing. And for me, it's Saturday to Saturday. I ask, what three things that I did for these brands, for these verticals. If too many periods of weeks go by and nothing happens, I start to question whether or not that's important for me right now. And
Hmm.
sometimes it can fluctuate. Like right now, comedy I write here and there. It's not nearly the number one thing, but it was number one for a long, long time because of the pandemic or whatever. But I
Hmm.
can't say the last time I went for a motorcycle ride, and that was the thing I want to get down. I had the license, but I haven't done
Hmm.
it in so long. So I go, okay, can't take stock in that. That allows me some flexibility in scheduling appointments. If I say, hey, look, next week is going to be a very heavy New Amsterdam radio week, and the week after that's going to be a very heavy video game esports week, that's okay. So it's a way for me to keep things structured, but not too structured where I'm like planning a time to eat between the hours of 11 a.m. and 11:35 a.m. on a Thursday.
Guilty. With that, also with that being said, let's talk about, this is another thing too. Being an author and
Mhm.
writing, because I'm in the midst of my second draft.
Oh,
Um,
congratulations! I had the first
well,
draft.
I just wanted to like say, like, I'm in the midst of my second draft, but I've been in the midst of my second draft for 6 months.
Yeah.
And I've been talking about launching this book for now going on 2 years. And
Okay.
when I first started writing it, I was like, oh, this is not going to get done when I planned it to be. So first off, but you've written multiple books.
Correct.
So, and that's something that I didn't know that I think you should promote even more. But what, first off, let's say the book that you have out right now. Tell
Yeah.
people what it is and where people can find it.
So my eighth book is my first nonfiction one. It's called Graduation Day, and it was written to be my last book ever. That's why it's called Graduation Day. But the conceit within it is that when I graduated, how to say in Canada, when I graduated university, when I graduated
Yeah, yeah.
university,
I
my
had to think about
commencement
that.
speaker, I was like, wait, is it British Colony? My commencement speaker was a guy that worked at Walmart, and it wasn't really inspiring to me. So in my mid
Wait,
thirties,
guy who worked at Walmart, like he was just a worker? Was he a
no, he was like
CEO
a
or
district manager of the Northeast Florida division. So a big wig, but still not big enough to be like, hey, we got Obama, Oprah.
inspirational?
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Hmm.
So in my mid 30s, in the midst of the pandemic, I look back and I said, look, if I had an opportunity to talk to my collegiate self or make a commencement speech at my alma mater, Flagler College, what would that look like? So the
Hmm.
first chapter is my actual graduation day. The last chapter is my commencement speech I would write if I was asked to be it. But in between are chapters of life lessons and stories I've came across when I was a kid, like how I lost 150 pounds, or everything I learned through wrestling, or a time where I was dirt poor and broke, but I took a flight out to Italy to DJ at an Italian wedding to save my business, like things like that. And in the life lessons I pull from that, I put in the
Hmm.
end and say, hey, look, if you were to graduate college, read this one. So it's available now on Amazon. Graduation Day, book number 8.
All right. Well, there it is. And then, is there any other books that because they're all available on Amazon, right? Or can
Oh,
they go to your
absolutely.
website?
Oh, absolutely. All available on Amazon. So my first 3 books are short story collections and poems. That's where I first get started. And it's kind of weird going back and seeing how I was a writer then. So that's why personally I don't advertise them as much. But if I had someone
Hmm.
like a Paul Heyman advocating for all the time, I probably should. Short story collections. I have 2 novels. High Desert Run and Pay the Vig, a couple other poetry books as well, and my graphic novel, and then my comic book, Legacy and Silver Streak, respectively.
I'm already tired. I don't even know
I
what.
know.
what's going on with that? Now, with that being said, how did you get started into the author space? Because that takes a very, it's I don't want to say it's time consuming. You have to be very
It is.
dedicated. Oftentimes people think, oh well, I'm gonna write a book, and like me, ignorantly, like, oh, the idea is great, and I have the whole storyline, but getting pen to paper, and
Yeah.
then the rewrite, and then the rewrite, and then now it's publishing, and now, so what made you want to get into it, and then take us through the process of it?
Like most good things in my life was by accident. So I went to grad school in 2007. That's what came out to California. I went to film school because I wanted to be a film editor, and that's what I got my master's in. In my second year, I was into writing scripts because a lot of times student film scripts aren't really that good. They're just not.
Hmm.
And I thought I could do it myself. But my directing students or my writing students will look at my stuff and go, "Well, that's great, but it's not mine." And so those directing kids usually had more money because their financial aid was different. So they made the movies they wanted to make. So I had a stack
Right.
of scripts that no one wanted to make. And so those were my first short stories, which is me writing prose around my screenplays. And after that, I kind of got the bug and I started writing and fleshing out characters and backstory. So that's why if you look back to like By the Ounce, which is my first book, it's the prose is like so tight. It's like Hemingway. It's like bam, bam, bam. Not Hemingway,
Mm.
to compare, but very tight. But then as you go into like Pay the Vig, I get to go more into detail, background, what's happening, how people smell,
Mhm.
things like that.
All the
As
little details.
all the little details to really flesh out the world. And I don't want to say it's the best example of this, but in our lifetime, the Harry Potter series. I mean, that like it goes from like being this thick to like that, just on detail, old lineages and everything.
Yeah,
So
it's crazy. I'll tell you about Harry Potter, my experience with Harry Potter. It's a whole
you
situation.
have
But continue.
experience with Harry Potter? Go on.
Yes. I'll tell
So,
you what happened.
as far as sticking with it, I say allow yourself time to get breaks. Like this book, Graduation Day, was 6 months late. Huckleberry Finn, one of the greatest American novels, was stopped in the middle. I mean, the legend goes when Huck gets on the raft, Twain put it down for 7.5 years and then came back and
Mm,
finished it. I think a lot of times new authors have this timeline in their head about what it needs to
yes.
be done, but it's done when it's done. Unless you have like an editor and you sign a multi-book deal and they're like, bro, there's no one that's around that should be beating you if you're late because it's your first time for a lot of people, their first experience of a TK Trinidad or whatever pseudonym you decide to use when you write. Don't shortchange them the experience because you wanted to get it out on some invisible timeline. You know.
Right. That's good advice. Um, so my thing with Harry Potter was that I've been every Christmas, because I spend time in Los Angeles, and it's quiet in Los Angeles, and I also like spin a lot of plates. So Christmas, I kind of try to shut it down, and I try to, watch a show that I haven't seen before, but that was like really popular. So
Mhm.
a couple years ago it was Karate Kid. Another couple years was Rocky, because I didn't really watch a lot of TV when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to watch Harry Potter, but I was like, I knew the books would be like so much better than the movies. I just didn't know how intense the books were. They are very descriptive. Um, so I did the audiobooks. And so now I'm kind of playing the movie from the audiobook in my head, but it's way more descriptive. So
Mhm.
where the movie is like an hour and a half, 2 hours, I am now listening to 9 hours worth of like one movie. So it was
Yeah.
very intense, and then I also did it back to back to back, and I didn't realize that it was affecting my psyche, because if you haven't read Harry Potter, then you're super late, or you watch the movies and you're super late, because every movie and every book somebody's trying to kill this boy. So now me, like, ingesting this, it's like really dark. Like, I don't
Yeah.
like, if you read it and you take a break, then it makes sense. But me not knowing, just back to back right before Christmas, like I was not in a good place mentally. And I was trying to I was trying to listen to the books. And then after book 3, then I was like wanting to watch the movie. By
Right.
the time I got to like the third movie, I'm like, I can't do this anymore.
Did you
This is
finish?
I finished all the books. I haven't finished the movies,
Oh
because I had
wow.
to power through the books, because I want to know what was gonna happen. But
Right.
it was also very like a lot on the psyche, because it was so descriptive. The writing is excellent. There was a lot of I don't know if people caught it, like a lot of religious references. Is like all great books. There are always a lot of religious references. So it was a really great series. I just would never, I would just never, if there's another book series like that again, I probably will hold off, like take breaks in between before
I
I,
felt that way with the Dexter
do a deep
books.
dive.
Yeah, the Dexter books. I was like, maybe I am a serial killer. You know, that was it changed my
Yeah,
whole
it's
mood.
intense.
Yeah.
It definitely is intense. And then last thing before we get out of here, because I definitely want to promote that, myself being a podcaster, and we talk about podcasts and all of a sudden that's how we met. Let's promote let's promote those
Cheerleader.com.
podcasts.
Oh man, so New Amsterdam Entertainment, which went legit during the pandemic, is a home to a lot of different shows, including the flagship New Amsterdam Radio, which is kind of like this show. You sit down with creatives and talk to them about their path and journey, their how and their why. That's available Thursdays on your favorite podcasting device. Flobo saw it on Netflix. This is like my global show where we get downloads from Kuwait all the way to New Zealand, where we get to break down some of the Netflix original programming. That's available twice a month and on Patreon at patreon.com/Flobo Boyce. There's also wrestling where Jack Farmer and I combine like Voltron to take over NXT and NXT UK, called Draped in Gold, every Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific.
Award-winning show too, right? Award-winning show.
It won this one. It won the video award for best sports programming. And the Dearly Departed After Hours show got the Knicks Award for best hosting the year before. And Star Trek, it's called Commander's Log. Every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific, we go and talk about Star Trek Discovery and Strange New Worlds. And whenever I'm needed, I also jump on other shows. The shows I co-host with Evan Mack, called Mac Mania, which is a Spotify original presented by The Ringer, that airs Tuesdays, and Starbase 80, which is an old school Star Trek show on Weber Internet Thingy.
Dang. I feel like you're missing some, but who are we to count? Who are we to count?
I mean, there's a book club, but that's for Patreon subscribers only. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, excuse me.
Flobito's book club is worth the skim monthly on Patreon.
Oh, there it is. Well, with that being said, where can everybody find you? Any new projects that they should look out for, all that good stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Flobito.com, FLOBITO.com. I say it every week. And if you want to know more about the show that I host, newamsterdam.com, KNW Amsterdam.com. Over the pandemic, because most of the comedy clubs were closed, I started dabbling in comedy novelty songs, basically like songs for humor. Alone the Club came out about 2 years ago now. I have a new one next month. It's called Money Shuffle, coming out St. Patrick's Day of this year. It's the dumbest thing I've ever done, so I hope it's hilarious to you guys.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing that. With that being said, thank you so much for joining. Like I said, the first ever live Convos with TK. I've been wanting to do, I do live shows for Women's Wrestling Talk, but I've been wanting to do my own stuff live, but timing. And then on top of that, just the consistency of the time has been an issue. But I said, you know what? Let's just go for it. So I appreciate you for coming on the show, taking time out your day, doing all that good stuff. It
was a highlight. It was. So I behind the curtain, I had to get up at 5 o'clock this morning because I was doing the esports announcing thing for Africa region. So Africa's 10 hours ahead.
Damn, 5 a.m. You had to be on it at 5 a.m.
I was on at 6. I had to get up at 5 to warm up the voice, much like Mac Mania. And I was like, I gotta do it. It has to be done before Convos with TK, because that was the highlight of my day today, is my point. So sorry, Africa. I left to make sure I was here for this.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching. Like I said, if there are any people that you want to be interviewed, Convos with TK, just send me a DM. TKTrinidad.com, which will be updated soon. There's a lot of stuff coming up. But yeah, if you know, follow me on social media. I pretty much give you an update on everything. But other than that, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Flobito.com. Definitely look out for him. I am putting it in the universe. There's a lot to happen with Flobito.com. And then, book him for the weddings before it's too late, because he's going to be off to doing something else in a few years. So, the farewell tour. There you go. Other than that, thanks, guys. Ciao.
TK Trinidad, let's talk about it.